This old house is made possible by a grant from Owens Corning Fiberglass Corporation, manufacturers of residential building products.
Hi, I'm Bob Vila. Welcome to This Old House. You think you've got problems, listen to mine. We've got a foot of snow on the ground and there's more predicted for this afternoon. We've only got 3 more programs in which to complete all the wonderful plans we had for this old house. I think we'll make it, but it's not going to be easy. And on top of everything, I've got this great head cold going for myself. But anyway, let's take a look at what we've got around here. You know, we've stripped all our shingles off the front of the house because after we removed windows and doors and replaced them, we had so much patching to do that we decided it would be easier just to put vertical siding on the house. That's underway, almost. But today we're going to spend most of our time inside, where it's a little bit warmer. I completed that beautiful tile job in the sunroom last week, and today we're going to get started on doing the grout work there. We also have Norman with us, and we need all the help we can get. He's going to be showing us how to hang a couple of doors and giving me a couple of pointers on patching a wooden floor. We've also got Rich Strathui coming out to install our toilets, and we're going to get started in our kitchen, where we've been busy building the overhead cabinets, and I want you to have a look at that before we do anything else. So let's go on in. We've gotten a good deal done here in the kitchen. Last week we were talking with you about the countertops, and since then we've built all these plywood boxes, really, which are our overhead cabinets. They've been put in place, and the next thing we'll do is build the faces for them and then hang the doors on them. We'll laminate them all with plastic just like we did the bottoms. And you'll notice, too, that one of our main guides in hanging them correctly is to put a level line all the way across the perimeter of the kitchen, and then to locate all of our studs where we actually nail into the wall. And they were easy to find because that's the wall that we built, where there used to be an entrance into the living room. And we know that the studs are 16 inches on center, so we don't have much trouble dealing with that. I've left one of these boxes still to hang so that I could show you how we built them. They're all made of 3/4-inch plywood. And again, remember, the plywood comes with one rough face and a smooth face, and we kept the smooth face on the inside of the cabinet. And we've butted them together and glued them. And the only difference here from the boxes we were building for drawers is that we've added a piece of pine stock about 4 inches in width here at the top and at the bottom. And that's what's called nailer. It's very important that we have something through which to nail these onto the wall. Now, let's talk a little bit about how we designed these, because after all, they're simple, but every kitchen presents its own problems. And for example, how did I decide what size to make this unit? This is a 27-inch wide box, if you will. And I actually have wall space between my 2 windows where it's going, amounting to 42.5 inches. But there are a number of considerations. One of them is that I want the side of the cabinet here to line up with what's underneath, because it would look rather awkward if it jogged out farther than this face. You want it to look clean and custom. So right off the bat, that took me down to over here, and all I have is 31 3/4 left. Then the next consideration has to do with this window that I've got. I have to trim the window, so I have to allow about 3 or 4 inches for putting a window casing around it. And the other main consideration there has to do with light. So this is not a very big window, and if you put these cabinets right up to the edges of the window, then you're restricting the amount of daylight that you get onto your working surface. So it's a good idea to keep it back a few inches. Also, somebody might want to hang curtains or hang a plant or something like that there. So that meant that I was reducing the dimension further by 4.5 inches on this side, so that what I ended up with, as you see right there, is a 27-inch width. The other consideration, of course, is the height. And, you know, there's many different schools of thought on how big to make them. I like to do what we're doing here, simply because the space at the very top of this storage area is not terribly easy to reach. It's not something that you can get at every day. And by leaving it open like this, it becomes kind of a display area. You can put interesting dishes or ceramics or whatever right on top of this area, and you still have 2 shelves in here and plenty of storage space. The other standard dimension that we are going with is the 12-inch depth of the cabinet. That's basically dictated by the average size of a dinner plate. If you're storing your china in one of these, you want to make sure that the largest plates fit in there comfortably. Now, the easiest way to take one of these and hang it, if you don't have 2 or 3 helpers around to hold it up for you, is to get yourself a couple of cut-off studs at the exact dimension that you're going to have between the countertop and the bottom of your cabinet. And we opted for a 15-inch dimension there. Many kitchen planning books might tell you to go to 18 inches, and really that dimension all has to do with whatever is going under there, like a toaster oven or a mixer or that type of small appliance that might need clearance on the top. 15 inches usually is all you need. And again, I wanted to keep these things low so that they're comfortable from the point of view of reaching in and taking things out. In this location here, directly over the dishwasher, most likely we're going to have china storage going on. So I want to be real careful that when I put the cabinet on the wall, it's going to be secure. And that means I got to find a stud. Unfortunately, when I started looking for studs in this wall, I only found one. I had already located previously when I was doing work on the box cabinets down below, and it's the only stud I have to nail to. So that presents me with another problem. But anyway, let's get started here. We'll take the box and put it on our two little dead men here and bring it just over to my line on the side there. And the first thing I'm going to do is hang it just the way you would hang a picture. I'm using an 8-penny nail. I'm just putting it up here to make sure that the cabinet doesn't fall on me. And I don't want to drive another one down there until I've plumbed the cabinet. I do that by just using my excuse me, plumb along the side here. There, that looks almost on the money. That's it. I'll draw a line on the inside wall so that if any movement occurs during the rest of the process, I can correct myself. Now, that nail, of course, would not do much good if I had 100 pounds of china in here. And two nails are not much of an improvement either. What I need and what I will be using are 3-inch screw nails. They're made out of steel, and they will give me enough of a grip into the stud that's back there that I won't have to worry too much about ever losing the cabinet. I'm going to be using our variable speed drill to drive them. Now, you can't always get it sufficiently tight with a power tool, and you might want to add a couple of turns just with a hand screwdriver. I will be putting another one of those up here and another one here. But now the other problem is that I want to fasten the sides of the cabinet to the wall so that the cabinet can never cup away from the wall. And I don't have any studs there. I don't have any nailer, just the plasterboard and the thickness of the plaster. So what I'm going to be using in this particular case is what's called a toggle bolt. And you can see it functions nice. Well, let me show you a little sample I've got over here on a piece of plywood. If you pretend that the plywood is the thickness of the wall, first you drill a hole through there big enough to accommodate this section when it's closed, like that. This is about 3/8 of an inch. And then you just drive it through there, and as you turn the screw, this will grip the back side of the wall and give you good holding power. And what I'll do is drill right in place. See, I'm going to put one. Gone all the way into the wall cavity there. So I've put a washer on the back of the screw, and we'll put it right through there. And then I'll spend about 5 minutes with a hand screwdriver tightening it up. But I won't take the 5 minutes right now, and instead what I want to do is show you that we've already built the face panels that go on the front of this cabinet, and that starts to give you a better idea of what the finished look will be. And then we'll laminate all of this. We'll put the plastic laminate in place here, and we will build the door and hang it, and hopefully that will all occur in the next few days. But it's coming along. It's looking like a very nice kitchen, I think. But right now, let's go over and visit with our friend Norm, who is busy hanging a door, I believe. Hi, Norman.
Hi,
How do you like our louvered doors over here?
Ah, very good. I was wondering why you chose louvered doors in this room.
Well, we kind of had several options. We could have put in a paneled door like the entry door, or just a flush door like the ones that are all over the house, which I think are kind of dull. My reasoning was that this is the sunroom. There's going to be a lot of plants in here. It will be a high humidity area. And it would make sense to have ventilation in these closets. So we went to louvered doors. I like the look of them, too.
Yeah, they look very nice.
Well, you've already hung this one, so we're too late to observe that. But I know you've got the second one to
We've
put in.
got one over here. Why don't I explain, first of all, the parts of the
Yeah,
door.
let's talk about the different parts that make up this.
Now, this side piece, the header, and this side piece are referred to as the jamb.
The door jambs, yeah.
And I have a small piece here, which is a cross-section of it. It's made from 1.125" pine. It's all solid.
And it's all clear.
That's right, it's very clear pine.
Nice stock. That's a pretty expensive item right there, isn't it?
About $30 for a jamb like
If I
this.
went just to buy the jambs.
That's right,
Okay.
no door.
Couldn't you get by that by just using 3/4-inch stock and then applying a piece of lattice or something like that and nailing it and gluing it?
Yeah, you could do that, but then it might not look as well as this, and it also wouldn't be as strong as this. Because
You wouldn't
being
have
one
the
piece, the
sturdiness.
door is never going to move this
Yeah,
stop.
yeah. And remember, that door is banging right up against that edge every time it stops.
That's right.
Okay, then what about hinges?
You don't call them hinges, Bob.
Oh, you don't?
These are called butts. Now, on this door, we have one pair, one here and one here. Both together are called a pair.
A pair of butts.
Now, if there was a third in the middle, as there are usually on exterior doors, that's called a pair and a half.
A pair and a half of butts.
Right, so when you go to the hardware store to buy them, don't ask for hinges, ask for butts.
Yeah. They'll call you a greenhorn if you ask for hinges.
That's right.
Sure. Now, we bought these set up, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the setup, the pre-hung door business.
Right.
I wasn't sure that it made sense to buy them that way and pay the extra money, but what's your opinion?
Okay, let me take off the door, and then I can show you some of the reasons why you might want that. It's a little bit better to buy the door pre-hung. It would take a good carpenter a while to hang a door in a jamb like this from scratch. And for the extra money that you pay to get it pre-hung, it's really not that much.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that's critical is when these butts are installed, you see they're mortised into the wood.
Yeah.
And that adds some strength to it because instead of the door just hanging on these screws, it's actually recessed into the wood.
Yeah, it has to be
Now-
moved so that it sits flush with the edge of my door.
Right, now this has to be done very accurately, not only on the door, but on the jamb so that these will go together properly.
The two sections of hinge have to be, or of butt, have to be perfectly aligned.
Perfectly aligned.
Yeah.
And you can do it, but it takes a lot of time and patience, and if you make a mistake, you could ruin a perfectly good door.
Hmm. Well, I'm glad we made the decision. It didn't cost that much extra.
No. Now, let me show you how we install the door jamb.
Okay, so the first thing you do is you take the door out of the jamb.
Take the door out of the jamb, place the jamb in the opening,
Mm-hmm.
and then check the header for level. Now, in this case, it's right on. But now, if the door had been, if the floor was not perfectly level, and both of these side pieces were the same size, that would not be level.
Yeah.
So you would have to cut one side, which would be the side where the floor is high,
Or couldn't you
to make
shim
it
up-
come level.
Couldn't you shim up the other side?
Well, you can do that as long as your finished floor isn't installed. But you already have the tile here.
Yeah, so
You
I
don't
can't
wanna
do
shim this
I can't
up.
do any shimming because I want to see a nice clean
Right tight to
edge
the
of
floor.
wood at the tile.
Nothing on the bottom, no
All right.
space.
Okay.
Now, the first thing to do is to start hanging the door always from the butt side.
Wide.
I'll give you a reason a little bit later,
Okay.
and you'll understand. But the first thing to do is to take some shim shingles and go behind the butt, because this is our pressure point. This is where the most pressure from the door is going to be, a little
Right,
on
you're
the jamb,
pivoting off of
on
that
the
point.
jamb, right. Now, the second most important thing is to make sure that the wall surface is even with this jamb.
You
Now,
do
the
that
reason
with
for
just
that
a-
is, well, I can use a piece of wood to show you. The reason for that is when we put the casings on, if the door is too far in, you're going to have this gap. You won't be able to get that nice and tight. And if it's too far out, it'll tip the casing back in that direction. So, and that'll give you problems when you go to do the mitered joints up at the top of the casing, right at the top of the jamb right here.
Sure.
So it's critical that this be flush, like that. And then we'll put a nail in the jamb.
What kind of nails are you using?
All right, we're using a 12-penny finish nail. You can use 12s or 16s, but generally they use 12s.
That's about a 3-inch nail.
That's right. Put it right in the center. Drive it just enough to hold the door in place. Then we want to plumb it up. And the critical place to be plumb is from butt to butt. So we'll put it on here to see what we have. And we have to go out a little bit. Now this jamb is particularly bowed.
Oh, is it?
As you can see. You see, it's way away from the level right there.
Yeah.
And it's hitting.
So you're going to fix that with shim shingles?
That's
as well?
right. So what I'll do is I'll approximate exactly where it's going to go. Put another series of shingles here. About halfway between the two butts. Again, let's make sure we're about even with that wall. And let's see how close, if we've happened to straighten this out at all. Okay, it's straight, but now is it plumb? Okay, it shows that we want to come out a little bit more, about 1/8 of an inch. So all we have to do is drive these shingles
That's neat. Even though you got the nail in there, it's soft enough wood that you can just
the
pound it
shingles
right
are usually
through.
soft enough that you can just pound it right through that. Now let's check it again. All right, that is pretty good right now. Now, because I only have a level that's 4 feet long here, and you would probably use one as short, we're going from point to point, and now we want to go from here to
From
the
middle
bottom.
point to bottom point, yeah.
Now it shows that the bottom has to go in. So we'll get it about where it's level, plumb, I'm sorry. And you see it's there, it's about a 3/8 of an inch gap. So again, we can approximate with the shingles. And it's always better to be a little short. And again, behind the butt. Okay, one more shim at the bottom. We'll check that.
Good.
Plumb again. Okay, that's good. Now we hang the door.
First test.
Right, and this is also the reason why I wanted to hang from the hinge side, the butt side first. Now, I always put the top butt in first. It's a little bit easier. Drop the pin, then go down here. Good.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
All right, now this side is plumb and straight, so we just
And the door
close
itself
the
is going to
door.
act as a guide for
Right.
the other one.
Check the top, and the margin is pretty good. The door's a little close. And then we just use the door as a guide to shim this side, just
All
like
right.
we did on the other side.
Well, let's do it.
Let's get some shingles.
Okay. Norman has put sufficient shims throughout the whole jam to get it solidly in place, and I guess we got one set left to saw out very carefully. Good. Okay.
Okay.
What's the next step, Norman?
Our next step is to case it.
That simply means to put some trim around it.
That's right.
It's
Now,
always called casing. Yeah.
first thing you have to decide is how far away from the edge of the jam you want this casing to go, or the reveal. Now, usually that's about 3/16 or 1/4 of an inch.
You can't just bring it to the exact edge, can you?
No.
Because the hinge is in the way.
And it's a little difficult to eyeball it.
The butt, I mean.
So we take a pair of dividers
Uh-huh.
and set the distance we want, and just put a series of marks
All the way down.
all the way down. And some on the top, particularly at the corners.
So you don't need to use your level anymore?
No, we're all done with the level. Okay,
now you're ready to use some fancy tools you got over here.
Well, we've already got one piece cut,
yeah.
So we'll put this one on. We'll tack this one in place. Now, you always nail the casing to the wall first.
Why?
Because if the wood is curved, you don't want to nail it to the jamb because then you might move it around a little bit.
Okay.
So the wall is much more secure area to nail to first.
Okay, Norman, you've secured that one. What's next?
All right, now we have to cut the piece for this side. So we'll take a piece of casing.
So you do the two sides first, and then you leave the top piece for last.
Top piece for last.
Okay.
Now, there's different tools we can use to cut it. This is a standard miter box with a back saw, and all you do is slide it through, drop the saw on it, and put it by hand. Like that. Now, the bottom is square.
You have to do that so that you have a square bottom.
So you have a square
of the
bottom.
piece, yeah.
Then we just make sure there's nothing on the floor. Put it down to the floor, and we have that mark we put up there from the reveal. So we just mark that where we want it cut off, and the angle is going to go this way.
Yeah, right.
But instead of using this handsaw, this time we're going to use a power miter box, which is...
I'm glad to see that one around here.
Right, which is just about a few dollars more than that, maybe $30, $40 more than that saw.
That's all the price difference?
That's right, and you can do a lot of things with this, so it's well worth the investment.
Oh, it's a wonderful tool to have, yeah.
It's a lot more effort, less effort to use that power saw also.
Well, if you're doing a large number of, I mean, a lot of doors, you really ought to get one.
All right, now it seems to be okay on the mark, so again, nail this side.
Okay, what's next?
Next is the header piece, Bob, which you've already cut one end. Now, a little trick to putting this up is you cut one end and you turn it upside down and line up
The point.
the point with the point, and then make a mark underneath, like that.
Very clever.
And use that as a guide to cut the miter.
To make sure you cut it in the right direction, right?
That's right. It's always good to put a little mark on the surface and then angle it the way you want the miter to go. Because it's very easy to cut it the wrong way. No, that's not too bad at all.
No, it's a pretty close fit.
Okay, now we have to put glue in this joint, and then we nail the casing on the header casing the same as the sides, except that we add one more nail right through the corner, either from the top or from the side.
Right through into the
opening
grain.
up.
Okay, Norm, while you're doing that, I'm going to go find Rich Trethewey, who's already gotten here, I believe, and I want to talk a little plumbing on the show today.
Okay.
Thank you. Hi, Richard.
Hi, Bob.
I'm really glad you could come over to remove this toilet temporarily. You know, I want to get a good ceramic floor in here, and I cannot lay tile over linoleum. It just won't work. So we tried to pull the stuff up, and the glue that was used to put it onto the plywood was so good that the linoleum just will not come up. So that's when we discovered that we got to take up the whole sheet of plywood and put new plywood down before we can put our tile in place, and this fella has to come out. Temporarily. What do you do to remove a toilet?
Well, there's two things to consider when removing a toilet. One is the water connection, which you shut the water off here at the shutoff.
Good
first.
point, yeah.
Loosen the connection down below, which I've already loosened. Then we flush the toilet, which I've done, and remove all the water
in there,
in here. Now there is two bolts, one on either side, that I've loosened and you remove. And there's a closet bolt. The other one is loosened on the other side.
And that's all there is to it.
And that is all there is to it.
Oh,
It's
come on,
ready
let's
to
pull
go.
it up.
To keep it level. And that is what is below everybody's toilet. That's a
Kind of
cast iron flange.
Yeah. It's a rusty one. Do you think we'll be able to reuse it?
Well, if it's good shape, what you're actually seeing there is this sort of flange with a wax seal, the remnants of it. If you can get your tile under it, and it's in good enough shape, we can leave it.
I hope so.
If not, we have to break it and pour a new lead joint.
But now at least I'll be able to cut this plywood out of here and get to work on the floor.
Right.
Hey, let's go take a look at the new bathroom and the work
Okay.
you're doing over there.
Good. Late this afternoon, Bob, you should be sure to, after the plywood's up, to seal off that pipe to keep sewer gas from coming up through that.
Good idea. Here we are in our new bathroom where the tile has all been completed, and I guess we're ready to install a brand new toilet.
Right. What you're seeing here that's already installed is a PVC closet flange, which has already been cleaned and glued and secured to the floor. This is secured through the tile and down into the plywood. You then get, these are closet bolts, which are brass, which should not rust out or rot out.
Yeah, they'll last
And
for
they
a long
slide
time.
in here to hold the toilet down to the flange.
Hey, on a new installation like this, does it make any difference whether you're using the PVC or using the cast iron?
Most new installations are PVC nowadays, but the same important rule applies to both, and that's to have a wax seal
Yeah,
between the toilet and the flange.
yeah. And to have the tile fit in properly.
Correct. This should come right up underneath the bottom of the toilet. They're all made for that. Now we're ready to set it. We've roughed the water and put a chrome-plated finish stop on it, which will accept the water pipe to the toilet.
Right.
I've got the rag in there that will come out.
That would be a bad idea to forget that in
Yeah,
there,
it
yes.
wouldn't work too good. And this is ready to go.
All you do
You
is...
should always get this wax seal up to room temperature at least. If you come out of a cold truck in the winter, you'll be trying to put this toilet on for about an hour or two.
Gotcha.
Now we're ready to set it. You can line up that bolt for me in that side, Bob.
You're right on it.
Okay, now you want to just squeeze that wax to fill the void. And we're down. A little bit of wiggling.
A little bit of wiggling, and that's all there is to it, huh?
Anybody can do that part of it. And now we want to just attach these bolts down and tighten those both down, and that's the bowl portion of the installation.
And then the tank just bolts onto this piece right here.
Right,
Correct?
right here.
Well, you know what? We are running out of time again. And I had promised everybody that we were going to be grouting tile floors and doing a number of other things, but I guess what we'll have to do is try to get to it next week. We're also going to have a visit from an expert on wallpapers, and we're going to be choosing some wallpapers for finishing around here. Rich, thanks for being with us today. Until next week, I'm Bob Vila for This Old House.
This Old House is made possible by a grant from Owens Corning Fiberglass Corporation, manufacturers of residential building products.